right, good afternoon, everyone. We'll call to order the City of Murfreesboro Board of Zoning Appeals regular meeting for April 26, 2023. Next item is the determination of a quorum with 4 of the 5 members present. We do have a quorum today. Next, we'll have the approval of the minutes from our meeting from January 25th, 2023. Those minutes were provided to the board members. Are there any changes necessary to those?
Not that I could tell.
Hearing none, those will stand approved as written. Next, we'll move to new business. We have a variance and special use permit application. It's number Z23008 by Patricia Troxel Tant of Vogue Tower Partners, LLC, requesting a 115-foot height variance from Chart 2 of the City of Murfreesboro zoning ordinance, which allows a maximum height of 35 feet to allow a new telecommunication pole and antenna height of 150 feet, and also a special use permit for a wireless telecommunication facility on property in an RS-15 residential single-family district. This is for property located at 591 Fortress Boulevard. Mr. Barbie, would you review that application for us?
Good afternoon, Chair Young and members of the Murfreesboro Board of Zoning Appeals. Today before you, I have a request for a 115-foot variance from Chart 2, the Murfreesboro zoning ordinance, to allow a monopole height of a total of 150 feet and a special use permit for a wireless telecommunications facility. We are expecting potentially to have an additional request made in the future for a 5-foot lightning rod to be added to the tower. They are going to go back and discuss with their client to see if that will be necessary, or if they will need, or if they are able to shorten the pole height to accommodate it. So that may be forthcoming in the future. The property is located at the intersection of, I thought I had my maps. I'll go back. At the intersection of Blaze Drive and Fortress Boulevard. I've indicated it by a small yellow square on the map. If I could get it to hold still. There we go. Right here. The property adjacent to the north is owned by Rutherford County. Property to the south is also owned by Rutherford County government. There's a small parcel to the west that is owned by the City of Murfreesboro. Further, you have, I believe that's Blackman High School. It's further to the west. To the east, you've got Blackman Middle School. I have a vacant parcel here, and a parcel to the north, I believe, is owned by the City of Murfreesboro as well. The application is for a monopole cell tower. It will have an 8-foot privacy fence or an 8-foot fence with screening, both slatting and vegetative screening added around it. Have access from Fortress Boulevard. They would also be able to drive through the parking lot and access through Blaze. They provided parking for any maintenance technicians that would need to visit the facility, and they will have a secure access so that only those individuals would be able to access the actual tower equipment that's ground mounted and the facility itself. Staff has reviewed the standards of general applicability and the additional standards for the wireless telecommunications facility, and according to the information submitted and reviewed, they do appear to meet all of those standards. Based on that review, we do have some conditions of approval. The facility should include a 150-foot tall monopole and antennas for co-location for 3 providers. Ground-mounted equipment within an equipment enclosure that is fenced and screened with dense shrubbery, driveway and parking space that is ADA accessible. The fence should be vinyl clad, double slatted to minimize views of equipment from right-of-ways and adjacent properties. The applicant should obtain all necessary permits and inspections for the proposed tower and associated structures. Prior to applying for building permits, the applicant shall obtain approval of a site plan for the proposed development. The maximum height of the monopole and telecommunication antenna structures and all appurtenances or accessory equipment shall not exceed a total of 150 feet. And under discontinuance, in the event of a discontinuance of the telecommunication facility, the facility owner shall comply with the requirement of the City of Murfreesboro zoning ordinance, Chapter 31, for notification, declaration, and removal of the wireless facility. We do have a representative from the applicant in attendance in the audience with us today, and I'm also available for any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Barber. Any questions for staff at this point? Thank you. Anything the applicant would like to add to the application? If you wouldn't mind, come forward. Give us your comments.
Nothing necessarily to add. My name is Michael Sandifer, and I represent Vogue Towers, the project manager, and just want to make sure, answer any questions you might have regarding the facility, the design, and the intent. So,
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the applicant at this point?
Is this the only pole that's proposed? I mean, I know it's the only one that's proposed at this time, but are there others that are going to be in the future in this area?
a lot of that is dictated by the growth. So I'd probably be foolish to say there's never going to be another tower in the Murfreesboro area, but a lot of it's just based on growth. Part of what was submitted, is it okay if I do this?
Sure.
There's some, I don't know if it's in this report, there were propagation maps.
Oh, we excluded those. The packet was too.
Oh, okay. So we had submitted some propagation maps from the radio engineers, just looking at the coverage of the area. But as more and more people move in or use wireless and it continues to grow, there may be a need down the road. Nothing in this general facility. This facility will be able to hold multiple carriers, multiple providers. But as far as Murfreesboro in general, I'm sure there'll be continued growth.
This may be a better question for staff, but if my memory serves me right, don't we already have like an emergency, like for our fire and rescue? Don't we have towers close to that location that are similar in size? Is that, am I?
Isn't that the
I haven't lived
county's
in Blackman
operations?
in some time. I think I remember driving past towers that may not even, may have been even taller than those.
Good afternoon, Chairman Young and members of the board. There is a tower that was approved by the BZA and constructed on the city's property across Blaze Drive behind the fire station right there. Of course, there wasn't a fire station when that tower went up. And if my memory serves me correctly, that tower was only for emergency service purposes. I don't believe that tower, don't believe the city, when it built that tower, had the intent of leasing it out to commercial providers. I believe it was only for emergency service purposes.
But it's similarly sized and
I think it's probably taller than what
Right,
they're
yeah.
proposing.
It's taller.
yeah, there's just in the vicinity that's
Yeah.
not, I was not asking whether we could use that instead.
Sure,
I was
sure.
just saying, I think there's a
Providing-
similar tower pretty
Providing
close
some
to that.
context for the area. Sure.
It's another question, actually two, but the first one, didn't we have some continuing education where, or a legal continuing education call where they were talking more about moving these types of things away from those towers and onto other buildings and so forth?
We're seeing a lot of, well, it kind of goes in spurts. We've gotten big batches of what are called small cells, and the small cells are the ones that we see mounted on street light poles, parking lot light poles. A lot of those are going in the public right of way, and I think that's, to manage some of the capacity issues and the coverage issues without building what we call the macro towers. So we have seen, I think over the last few years, fewer of the macro towers and more of the micro towers, the small cells. In fact, Mr. Aguilera is our staff point person for the small cells, and they do come in batches. Sometimes AT&T or Verizon will send in 20 or 30 of them at once, and the majority of those go in the public right of way on Middle Tennessee Electric's poles, or sometimes they'll take a street light, replace the street light, put in a little bit taller street light, so they can mount an antenna a few feet taller than a normal street light pole. But yeah, we're seeing them in different forms these days than we used to see, which it was just all the big towers.
Right. So it's still a necessity. Is that what they're saying is it's still a necessity to have this type of tall tower?
I think I'd probably defer to.
That might be, yeah.
Yes. So from what they were describing, when you look at what we call a macro network side, the traditional towers versus small cells. Small cells at this point are more in any kind of like a downtown shopping, nightlife area. It's really more capacity driven for relief of just high usage, where the macro network is still attaining coverage and quality for a larger geographic area.
So those kind of link into this?
Yes.
Okay.
Like when you
Right.
have an expander in your house for your Wi-Fi? Or is that completely, I probably should have cut my mouth shut.
That very well could be you've got a Wi-Fi unit that's
And I have like a thing I plug into the wall so that it goes on the other side of the house. And
Right.
So that's what I hear you
kind of
saying.
a booster for your Wi-Fi.
A boost, yeah.
Your coverage still, the booster may help you wirelessly within your house, but it's still whatever, the route is or the pipe, whether you have a cable or fiber.
You still
to your
have to
house.
have your Wi-Fi for that.
Yes.
And so you still need the macro network, even though you have these small cells that help us get more people connected to the cellular network.
Yes, ma'am. But in place of your Wi-Fi, most of the carriers sell, what they call a fixed wireless solution. So you can get a Verizon or AT&T or, essentially Wi-Fi at your house that way.
And, yeah.
So whenever you say that multiple carriers can use the pole, is it gonna be antenna type, what's on the pole, or not? Like, would the look of this pole change whenever other carriers are on it?
Meaning, most everyone uses similar antennas, so
Yeah.
it would be equivalent to what you see on the other structures around.
But there would be multiple antennas on it if
Yes,
multiple
ma'am.
carriers are on it?
Essentially, same way a shopping center, has multiple suites or stores. You see a lot of these that have just multiple sections of antennas. It's from a property management standpoint, it's sort of like a vertical shopping center.
Right. Is there a max number of carriers who could be on the pole?
It's whatever the pole's designed for. Generally, Vogue is generally designing them for at least 4, but there's guesswork in that. When you design the pole, you assume certain design criteria, how much of a loading, and then design for 4 slots or 4 locations of that. But as long as you knew ahead of time and could design for it, you could design for most anything, and then it gets into the reality of so many people down, at some point it doesn't provide the coverage objective.
Any further questions for the applicant?
This is just an observation. I've been to 2 different areas of the country where, and I'm sure it's a zoning issue, where these poles look like trees. So they're definitely more aesthetic. Look, at first glance, you really can't tell that it's a cell tower. I know we're not there yet, but just food for thought.
And where I was going with my questions is I've also seen the opposite, where you let all of these antennas and it is not very pleasing
Right.
aesthetically if you let it, get out of hand.
Well, with regard to this particular application, where it's located with what I would say institutional properties around it, it doesn't look like there's any residential property, even though it's in a residential zone. It doesn't, to me, it doesn't carry the same impact that it would if this were sitting in a subdivision per se.
Right.
And I would agree with that. I think years ago, we had a situation where we had a cell tower pole, and we pretty much, it was a not monopolistic, monolith, whatever it is.
Monopole.
Yeah, monopole. But it had the screens or the antennas were enclosed. And so it just looks like a big old pole. you know, and, but I agree. This is not in a situation where it's near residential. Actually, I think it's in a perfect spot, so.
Yeah. I just say that to say that I could have a different position on it if it were in another location.
Right.
Any further questions for the applicant? Hearing none, we'll let you go. Thank you for your
Thank you.
time. This time, we'll conduct a public hearing. If there's anyone present that wishes to speak for or against this application, if you'd come forward, give us your name and address, and provide us any comments that you may have on it. Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing and open the floor for any further discussion or motion.
So we probably have two motions if there is one, right? One for the special use,
Yes.
one for the
That
variance.
would be my guess. Yes, thank you for catching that. I meant to mention that. So we'll attack the special use permit portion first.
I'll move to approve the application subject to staff comments.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second for the special use permit. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So that portion is passed. Next is the height variance. Before we get a motion, I remember, speaking to Mr. Tipps's continuing education, it's been a while since we've seen some of these, but the first few of these came when you see a 100-foot variance would give us pause. Well, but my recollection is that there were governing bodies above the city and county that said, hey, these are for the public good. And while this is a large variance, why is it so much that there's other precedents of this size, variance being approved and
Similar to utilities.
correct?
Yeah, I'm a little confused about it in a sense because it says, for structures, and I don't, I think of structure as something that has other utility other than just a metal pole sticking up. I mean, it's like, you have to have a special use permit for a flagpole, that's going to be above 35 feet in a residential zone?
We do have height limits in our zoning ordinance for flagpoles, and they do have to go through a site plan review if they're non-residential. I don't know if there's regulations for residential districts on them, but
Well, I mean, just
For
looking at
non-residential.
that, this is in a RS-15, which is residential, and just thinking, I don't equate a pole with a structure per se, but I guess maybe I'm
yeah, it's still considered a
not
commercial
informed.
structure.
Yeah, and the zoning ordinance has a very broad and liberal definition of what a structure is. A structure is anything built or constructed, but not including paving or resurfacing of the ground. So anything other than asphalt or a concrete drive is a structure.
Thank you.
I don't think we're setting a precedence here for 150
No,
variance on our homes.
I'll make a motion, we approve the height variance, subject to all staff comments.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second for the variance. Any further discussion?
And does that motion incorporate all of staff's comments regarding the requirements for the variance?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, a motion and a second, conditions from the staff. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There are none, so that application's been approved. Next, we'll move to special use permits. The first one is application Z23007 by Ms. Lene France, requesting a special use permit to establish a home occupation, in this case a hair salon, on property in the residential single-family RS-15 district. And this is for property located at 1711 Bridget Drive. Mr. Barbie, would you review this one for us?
Good afternoon again. As you stated, this is a request for a special use permit for an in-home hair salon at 1711 Bridget Drive. Property is located, it says on Bridget Drive at the intersection of, looks like Chanda Lane. All the surrounding properties are also zoned residential. The proposed use is for a one-chair hair salon. Appointments would be, or guests would be there by appointment only. There would not be any walk-ins. There would only be one small sign permitted with this home occupation. Would be one client at a time, so they would not be able to have, 2, 3, 4 clients sitting there waiting on their appointment. Parking would be in the driveway located currently on the site. Staff has reviewed all of the standards of general applicability and the additional standards that apply to this use and find that the request is consistent with those standards. I have received 3 comments from 2 different individuals in opposition of this application request. I'll hand those out to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
In summary, the concerns appear to be mostly based around traffic, any effect that it might have on property values, and how that might encourage additional commercial uses in that area to advance as well. But again, in reviewing the application and the information that's been submitted by this applicant, the responses and the land use that they are requesting is consistent with what's required for this special use permit. I know the applicant, Ms. Lene France, is with us here this afternoon if you have questions for her, and I'm also here if you have any questions for me as well.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for?
Well, can you, since there is, well, they're not here, but they provided opposition, can you review times of operation? Can you review, is this one person an hour? What truly are the limitations here? Is there Saturday hours? Is there Sunday hours?
Yes, sir. It's going to be one customer at a time. I don't think there's a time limit on how long it takes to complete one customer. If it takes, 30 minutes or if it takes 3 hours.
Right.
It takes however long to complete that service. Application would be for, I believe it was Tuesday through Saturday.
It says Monday,
I'm thinking of the.
shall not operate on Mondays or Sundays. So
Yes, Tuesday through Saturday, from 9 a.m. until 7 p.m. Again, all of the parking would be on the property in the driveway that's there now, or any future driveway that's added to, or parking surface that's added to that driveway. All of the operations would be internal to the existing structure. There would be nothing outside of the property as far as operations, storage, any business type of operation that would be outside of that existing home.
We've talked about signage in the past. I know you mentioned one sign. Is that a requirement by the Tennessee barber to have a sign, or?
I know our ordinance allows 1 3-square-foot sign
Right.
for home occupations. If it's a requirement or not,
I think it probably is.
let's let the applicant
Barber
address that
Cosmetology
question.
Board.
Right.
Yeah. Because they're gonna, I've been on the regulatory side too.
Per the cosmetology board, I'm required to put a small sign up just to state that I have a salon there. I have a very small sign. It's white. It will match my door. It has gray letters. It's not even 2 foot by 3 foot. I'm only planning on taking clients by appointment only. I'm probably only going to be working part-time. I homeschool my children, so this is not going to be something where there are going to be clients just rotating in and out all the time. I'm not even planning to work Tuesday through Saturday. I just put that on there so then it covered everything. But, yeah, that's just what I'm asking for.
Any more questions for staff at this point?
Yeah, we've approved several home occupation type. Has it been typical for us to do this 9 to 7 and including Saturdays, or what is that pretty much the standard?
Yeah, it's standard. We, typically, we do ask them to provide us what their what is their days of operation and hours of operation, so that those limits are included into the use permit.
Okay, thank you.
And something that may help clarify as well, I do have some recommended conditions of approval that we would like to include if the application is approved. Those conditions are that customer visits should be by appointment only, and no more than one customer at a time shall visit the home-based business. Any proposed signage shall comply with the zoning and sign ordinance and shall not exceed 3 square feet in area. Shall be attached to the principal structure only and shall be subject to any applicable permitting requirements. The business should be open no earlier than 9 a.m. and closed no later than 7 p.m. and shall not operate on Monday or Sunday. Again, all parking will occur in the concrete driveway located on the subject property located at 1711 Bridget Drive. And then prior to obtaining a business license or within 60 days from the date of the special use permit approval, whichever occurs first, the applicant should obtain building permits and final inspections for the addition of the exterior door, plumbing, and electrical work done without permits.
Thank you. There are limits to how much space of our house you can carve out for the home-based business, and I assume this meets that?
That's correct. The maximum allowed area is 25% of the floor area. I believe, going from memory, I believe they're at about 17% of the total floor area.
And I think if this is approved, it does not continue, this operation does not continue on past the length of time this person owns that house, correct?
We
Doesn't
have.
run with the property, it's only for this person, correct?
We have in the past on other use permits included that as a condition of approval, and if the board desires to add that as a condition, it's your purview whether or not to do that, but it was not one of the conditions included. But yes, we have done that on other home-based businesses. So when that business ceases or they sell the home, that use permit is no longer valid with that property.
But in the instance that it stayed with the property and went to the next owner, they would be bound by these conditions of operation, and
If they, yeah,
if it happened to. Okay.
yeah, if you don't include that condition,
Okay.
in theory, yes.
Any further questions for staff at this point? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Ms. Francis, anything else? Appreciate your comments. Anything else you'd like to add to the application? Okay. At this time, we'll conduct a public hearing. If there anyone present wishing to speak for or against this application, if you'd come forward and give us your name and address and provide us any comments you may have.
Thank you. My name is Terry Broich, and I live at 1830 Bridget Drive. And I have a concern regarding the increased traffic. We do live in a residential area. We are in, with all of the Siegel schools, we have lots of children in our neighborhood. And I myself have my grandchildren in and out, very frequently. And I do have a concern regarding increased traffic. And I know, we say there's one at a time and one appointment, but you never know how long an appointment is going to take. We can't guarantee that is someone going to come early or, what that's going to entail. So that's a huge concern that I have, just looking out for the children in our neighborhood. The second concern that I have is the precedence that it does set in our neighborhood. This is a residential neighborhood. I have lived there for 20 years. And, I mean, do we set a precedence that people can open businesses in their homes? I mean, it is a concern to me. I don't want to have to, sell my house because now we're going to be inundated by businesses, and maybe my next door neighbor's going to want to open a business, and I don't know what that's going to entail. So those are my concerns, and I appreciate you listening to me. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Trisha Pullman. I am an owner of 3305 Help Court, which is also in the neighborhood, and I would like you to support my neighbor, who I've never met, but I've been in that neighborhood for about 5 years, and we absolutely have a traffic problem, and I don't believe that this business will cause that. People frequently cut through Sulphur Springs to Thompson, through Bridget and Pennington. I can't imagine her business is going to change that in any way, shape, or form. It's already an issue. As a mother, we walk, we bike in that area, and I pass her home frequently. I've never seen a car on the street. We have a lot of other issues in our neighborhood that I think would be at the top of the list. And I do not believe this is, I appreciate that you're going through the right proper legal channels, because there's a number of different businesses operating in our community that aren't probably legally set up to work out of their home. So thank you for your consideration. Good luck.
And my name is Douglas Cottingham. I live at 1614 Lewis Circle, which is a little catty corner, but directly behind. I apologize, Ms. France. I've never met you, and I'm literally in my backyard all the time. To the lady's point a moment ago about traffic, we have almost every home in that neighborhood has 3 cars to start. I have 4 myself, 3 people that live in my house. I leave in the morning at about 7. My wife leaves 7:15. My son at 7:25. 3 cars from one house. First thing in the morning. We come home about 45 minutes apart. Same thing, 3 cars coming back in. As I look at the neighborhood and the number of cars that kind of funnel through, several years ago I lived in off St. Andrews, which I don't know if you're familiar with the area. It's far more congested. There are other traffic problems there. As I look at our neighborhood now and realize you're looking, even if I accepted and said she's going to do a head of hair every hour on the hour, like just all day, from the time she starts at 9 until the time she's done at 7, I don't feel that would be any more disruptive than the Amazon package deliveries, the UPS deliveries, the random cars that literally they cut our neighborhood from kind of more the rural side going back across to Thompson Lane. I don't see how the traffic would really affect anything on that street. She's in or bordering a cul-de-sac. So I don't think speed is an issue when it comes to the traffic, because you're having to make a turn when you get there, or you're coming out of a turn while you're there. Additionally, I cannot help but be grateful that she has taken the proper channels to get a business license. There are daycares that, like, the neighborhood knows who has 5 or 6 kids dropped off every day. There are businesses that run food trucks, and I appreciate them all. They're all working. They're doing their thing. There's food trucks. There's like a halfway house kind of thing going on there. Not like a true halfway house, but they serve a purpose, and they're great, and they've never really caused an issue for me at all. And my street comes out onto Pennington, which is one of the streets that you hit when you're cutting through. Come down Pennington to go across to Thompson Lane. And the traffic would be negligible, again, even if she did a head of hair every hour. We have way bigger issues. That wouldn't bother me at all. And if I could do this every time somebody wanted to open a business, I'll come every day. I took off of work for this, and I don't even know her. So might schedule an appointment. She does men's hair. I wear a cap all day, but yeah. So, and that's really all I have. Other than I support it. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, and it's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you, guys.
Any other comments to this application? Not, we'll close the public hearing and then open the floor for any further discussion or a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to approve this application. First of all, I appreciate the lady's comments about precedent, but we obviously have a lot of home-based businesses that we've approved in this city for many years, so it's not establishing any other precedent. But with that approval, or my motion to approve, is subject to the 6 conditions recommended by the staff, along with my own amendment to it to limit this permit, or if approved, to where it does not run with the property if there's a transfer. So in other words, this application, if approved, is for her as the current owner. Once she sells, it goes away.
I'll make a comment before I second Tim's motion. When I read this application and then saw these folks that were in opposition and heard another neighbor that was opposition, I was going to make the comment that I'm not sure we've had an application for a home-based business that we had so much opposition to. But then you got 2 individuals that don't even know the applicant that come in here and feel like that it's not going to have a negative impact. So you kind of have to weigh everybody's opinion here. It sounds like that you've been a good neighbor so far and not caused anybody a problem. So you have a track record with the folks that are around you. So I'll second the motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Are there any further discussion?
I was just curious whether staff knew of already home businesses that we've approved within the, I don't know, 3 miles of this residence. So
We'd
I
have
know
to
we do it throughout.
But this planning staff approves home-based business occupations daily. The only ones that come before the Board of Zoning Appeals are the ones that have the potential for creating a customer traffic trip. So if you're doing a hair or something similar, where the customer comes to your property, those are the ones that come before the Board of Zoning Appeals. But home-based businesses for people who do home offices, or any other similar use that you can do inside your home that doesn't generate customer traffic. And within the limits of the zoning ordinance, we do approve those daily all throughout the city.
And I can recall in North Murfreesboro or within this area, having had others in my tenure on BZA that have been approved over the course of the several years that I've done this. So I mean, I understand a concern for precedence, but I think the board also has to consider the fact that we can't arbitrarily deny a permit, an application, when we have been doing so across the city for several years. And it wouldn't be fair to other applicants when similarly structured, similarly houred applicants have been approved over the course of, well before I became part of this board even. And that wouldn't be appropriate for us to deny on that basis.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any further comments? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There are none, so that application has been approved. Appreciate everyone's time. Next application is Z23006 by Margaret Greason, requesting a special use permit to establish an accessory apartment. And this is for property in the residential single-family RS-15 district. And the address is 2103 Patriot Drive. Mr. Aguilera, would you review that for us?
Yes, can do, sir. Thank you, Chair Young and members of the Board of Zoning Appeals. This application that we have brought before you today is a special use permit application to establish an accessory apartment at 2103 Patriot Drive. I've pulled up the surveyed plot plan for you all to review that, just to get a general idea of what we will be referring to today and discussing today. The requested accessory apartment would be established inside within an existing accessory structure located on the property today. There are no building records of the accessory structure, but has been existing on the property for quite some time, we believe, prior to the enacting of the Murfreesboro zoning ordinance in 1984. The applicant proposes to renovate the existing structure and construct a kitchen, living room, closet, 1 bedroom, and 1 bathroom. It is approximately 18 feet. That was confirmed by the contractor who's also here today, and 453 square feet inside, located in the front of the main residence, approximately 43 feet from the Patriot Drive of the front setback, and 16 feet from the side property line to the east. The driveway is gravel and can accommodate the additional parking as required. It can accommodate 4 vehicles. There are 2, as shown on this plot plan, there are also 2 additional structures that are existing today and that will also remain on the property for storage. The property is zoned RS-15 and is surrounded by property zoned RS-15 and located in the Mabel Blair residential subdivision. Per staff's analysis located in your staff report, this is a very unique type of request because as per section 25 temporary and accessory structures in the zoning ordinance, detached accessory structures on corner lots must be located 10 feet behind the front facade of the house and 5 feet away from the house. As you can see on this plot plan, it is not 10 feet behind the front facade of the house. It is not 5 feet away from this house. But again, during our analysis, during this review, this took a lot of research and collaboration with the applicant, and they were able to produce a lot of documentation for us for this application. Staff's research noted that, again, because this was this is a old property and again has been established, more than likely established before the 1984 zoning ordinance, we would consider this to be a legal non-conforming structure. In addition to the research for this property and the structure, it was confirmed that this building was approved by the Murfreesboro Board of Zoning Appeals in 1989 for a home occupation to be established within the structure by the previous planning director at the time. So there has been an existing file on hand. No building permits were found, but an existing recorded file for a home occupation did approve a home occupation out of the structure. And again, there was another one for the main principal dwelling in 1991 for a bed and breakfast inn. So staff conferred, finding all this information, staff conferred with the city legal department and confirmed that the building can remain on the property as a lawfully established non-conforming structure, provided that the structure does not, the non-conformity is not expanded upon, and that per section 28, that it is continues to be a use that is permitted under that underlying zoning district. Again, this is all language and everything that is within the non-conformity section of the zoning ordinance, section 28 and section 25. And again, since this is the proposed accessory apartment is a permitted use via a special use permit in the RS-15 district, they can continue to use this and can continue this to convert the structure regardless of it being a non-conforming structure. And so with this staff is with this permit application located in the bottom portion of the staff report, we are making 2 additional recommendations that you can also find in the conditions of approval. Staff is recommending that both the 1989 home occupation and the 1991 special use permit for the bed and breakfast be rescinded as a condition of approval for this proposed special use permit. And then the other conditions, of course, include the completion and recordation of the restriction on land use, restriction of use of land document. The applicant has agreed, in our discussions, the applicant has agreed to those conditions. In staff's review of the general standards of applicability, staff believes that this application and the associated documents meet those standards per section 9 standards of general applicability. The proposed use complies with the minimum development standards and will not significantly affect or impact the welfare of the neighborhood. Again, this is an existing structure today, and through our review of the application, we do not anticipate there to be any major impacts to the safety and welfare of the neighborhood. In staff's review of the additional standards for accessory apartments, staff again believes that these additional standards have been met. The application is for only one accessory apartment at 2103 Patriot Drive, and it will have a design that is consistent with the principal dwelling end of the neighborhood. The proposed accessory apartment will be again 453 square feet and will again be compliant with the minimum 700 square feet of floor area requirement for accessory apartment. There will be adequate parking via the existing gravel driveway, which can again accommodate for parking spaces. And again, the applicant has agreed to the recordation of the restriction of use of land document that will be prepared with the city legal department. The staff recommends approval of this special use permit subject to the following recommended conditions of approval. And as you can see in the staff report, we do have 7 of them. Again, one of them just highlighting that number 5, upon approval of such special use permit, the previous special use permits for the home occupation for the small craft shop in 1989 and the bed and breakfast in 1991 shall be rescinded. I am here for any questions. If you have any, the applicant is here as well as the contract. Philip is here as well for any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Aguilera at this point?
So it complies, all the setbacks are in order, according to this.
It does not comply with the setbacks. It's a non-conforming structure, meaning that it does not comply with the detached accessory structure standards, 10 feet behind the front facade.
That, I understand that part, but where it's located as far as your side setbacks is within, I think it looks like a 20-foot setback there. That's in compliance?
So that one is just there for reference. That's for the distance requirements. Detached accessory structures, as we said, it's a non-compliant structure. It's in the front yard.
Yeah, my question, I understand, if it were a true accessory for the first time, being built for the first time, it would have to be built behind the door.
It would have to, yes, sir. It would have to be built.
In this case, I'm just asking, other than that, does it comply with setbacks, front, side, and so on?
It does not comply with it.
Does not comply with the side setback either.
But there's no variance being applied for.
No, there's no variance being applied for because again, it's a legally non-conforming.
Grandfathered in.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's speaking from somebody that graduated from the high school next to this before 1984. That building was there.
Well, that's documentation now.
Yeah, there we go.
Now we know.
I appreciate it. There we go.
We
On the
tried
record.
looking.
We have that. It's a very unique property. We're grateful that the applicant was able to produce this type of documentation and work with us to understand it, and with our legal department as well to make sure that everything was in order.
Thank you. Any further questions for staff? Thank you. Anything the applicant would like to add to the application? Feel free to come forward and provide that. Any questions for the applicant? All right, I guess we'll let you off easy. Next, we'll go to the public hearing. Is there anyone present wishing to speak for or against this application? If you'd come forward. Seeing none, we'll declare the public hearing closed and open the floor for any further discussion or motion.
I'll move to approve, subject to the conditions set forth by staff.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And there are none, so that application's been approved. Next item, staff reports and any other business.
No other reports, no other business. It's good to see you. We missed you for the last couple months, so that's all I've got.
All right. Appreciate everyone's time.
Thank you.
We will adjourn.
I don't want to make any comments as to my colleague's age and or lack of experience that he may have.
Is that lady?